Rob Pelinka. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. It wasn't anybody else that said this, but I do remember when Pelinka, I think it was right after last trade deadline, said that you can't buy a home that's not for sale. And then at one point, I can't remember the timing of this, talked about how, well, we're going to have an additional now first rounder that we can use to go get another player. They use one of those first rounders on Dalton Connect, and here they are still holding on to those 2 first rounders. Do you think there's how do I put this? I mean, listen, Pelinka's got a job to do. His job is not to just think of today. His job is to also think of tomorrow. So I understand you want to be really responsible with those draft picks. But at the same time, your roster is telling you we have to live today because, like you mentioned, you got 18 months left at max of what this run can be. Do you think there's hesitation on trading the picks, or do you think just nothing has come to fruition to where Pelinka says, F it, I'm freaking trading the picks and I'm going all in?
I think it's a combination, but I think it's more that second point than anything, because if you look at the guys currently on the trade market, guys being in rumors and reports and whatnot, like how many of those guys are actually worth a first round pick, right? And some of these guys, like a Walker Kessler and a Cam Johnson, the asking price is 2 first round picks, right? So I think that's where it gets a little. Now, I think that the flip side, though, is if you're the Lakers and like the market is the market, it's sort of comes down to, do you want to get better or not, right? And of course, you don't want to overpay. And that's why I think the DFS move was so shrewd, because they didn't have to give up a first round pick. If anything, I thought they got pretty good value for him and didn't have to give up a crazy amount. And that was a good deal. But at the end of the day, again, it comes down to like you only get so like how many times are we going to see a tandem like LeBron and AD, 2 guys who have been top 10 players basically for a half decade together, and they have a championship and a conference finals to show for it. But the other 3 years have basically first round exits or missing the playoffs or missing the play-in. Like it's just been, it's been up and down, and part of that's been injuries, part of that's been roster construction, part of that's been luck. There's a lot of factors that have gone into that. Of course, the Westbrook trade as well, but I just think now I will say, since the Westbrook trade, which makes me think of it, like there has been some more caution from the Lakers side in terms of giving up assets, being aggressive in trades. If you look at the moves they've made since, before and after then, they have been more aggressive, prior and more cautious post Westbrook deal. But I think it's more so them looking at the market and being like, none of these guys really jump out as being worth what the asking prices are. And if we're patient, maybe that can drop closer to the deadline.
All right, final one. I'm gonna stay with Cam Johnson here for a quick second, because I think that's, you were talking about, hey, you need another wing player, you need another a player that can potentially fill that role. Do you think that when push comes to shove, by the time we get to February 6th, I guess you don't even have to use Cam Johnson as an example, but do you think the Lakers will still have 2 first rounders in their pocket, or do you think at least one of those will have been used and the Lakers did make another move?
It's a good question.
And I listen, I know we're obviously, it's just an opinion, but I'm just curious to get your thoughts of, because of their situation. I think because both of you and I said they're not in that top level tier, which any trade probably still doesn't put them there. But do you feel like with some of the pressure that's on because of the window that they have, that at least one of those picks are gone?
I think it's pretty close right now. One thing I've been saying is that I certainly would say I think they're more likely to use no picks than they are to use both picks. Barring maybe if they can really get a shot at the Aaron Fox, someone like that, like maybe that's the exception. But outside of like, I don't see them putting 2 picks in for a Walker Kessler or for a Cam Johnson. I think that price is just too high for them for that caliber of player or upgrade or whatever. So realistically, I think it's more between, do they use a pick or do they use 0 picks rather than of the 3 scenarios. That I think is pretty close. I guess I would lean more toward them using a pick, because I think that, I mean, they've been playing so well. They're 8-4 over their past 12. They've been a top 10 defense. I think that they're almost applying some pressure on the front office, on the organization,
I agree.
to have to, like, we were talking about that 30 game mark and where they were going to be. Well, they're right now, we're just the number 4 seed, and now they're the number 5 seed. So it's like they're right there in the thick of it in terms of the Western Conference playoff race. And I just think they might be one move away, one final upgrade, especially if Vando's the kind of the swing piece here, where if I just think he changes the whole outlook of this team if he can get healthy and stay healthy, because then I think if we're talking about potentially trading Rui, I think he's a little bit more expendable if you have DFS, Vando, and Max versus if it's just DFS and Max and then like Cam. Now all of a sudden you're more reliant on Rui, right? So I think Vando changes the complexion of this team, and if he can get healthy and play within the next couple weeks, and we see what that looks like, I think we'll have a better idea of like their ceiling, what they really need. And then at that point, it's like, okay, who's more expendable basically between Rui and Gabe, and then go get that piece that you need.
Jovan, I know, and just real quick here, I know it was a couple days ago that what was the quote that Vando was making real progress. Was there anything more to that, or was that literally just the terminology that JJ used?
So he said that he was progressing to ramping up to on-court activities. So that was kind of word salad, in my opinion, a little bit. Like he said it was real progress, and that, like, I guess the implication was that compared to previous times they've talked about him, it was not real progress. Okay. But he said ramping up to on-court activity. So I'm like, that means he's not doing on-court activity. And typically a player comes back, does on-court activity for at least a few days, if not a week. And for a guy who's been out for almost a year, you would think that might be like 7 to 10 days or something. So he seems to be progressing, and that was like the most substantial update it feels like we've gotten on him. But there was still no, like, he's practicing, he's taking part in 5-on-5, like he's close to a return. It was like, we'll give you another update soon. So we've heard that with him like 4 times.
That's very, very accurate. All right, if you enjoyed this clip and you want more, just subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the Sliwa Show. And then after every Lakers game, post-game show right here.